Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. In that list, you have 2 NBA Finals MVPs, the last 3 league MVPs, and 4 of the 5 All-NBA first-team members from this past season. And it could have been all 5, but the NBA has that stupid rule where positions still matter. Anyway, what's unique about these 5 players is that none of them are American. In a sport historically dominated by the USA, basketball is in the midst of a global revolution, with star players emerging from all across the world. For example, since 2013, there have been more international players selected first overall in the draft than there have been American players, and this overall increase in international talent has also translated to international competitions. We all know about the infamous 2004 USA Olympic team that lost in the semifinals to Argentina en route to an underwhelming bronze medal, and while the United States national team has largely been successful since that shortcoming, winning gold in the last 4 Olympic Games, if you look a little bit closer, you can see the tide starting to turn again. In 2019, the US national team finished a lowly 7th place in the FIBA World Cup, where a young team devoid of top-tier NBA talent suffered a loss to France in the quarterfinals of the competition. And this newfound parity in global basketball has also found its way to youth competitions, as most recently the 2023 U19 US team finished 4th in the U19 World Cup, which was their worst finish in the competition since 2011. It's in this context that we enter the 2023 FIBA World Cup, and while the US are the overwhelming favorite to win the competition, the roster they've put forward is slightly underwhelming to the common eye. Out are the days of the 1992 Dream Team or the 2008 Redeem Team that featured bona fide NBA superstars up and down the lineup, and in is a roster that's good, but not necessarily as fear-inducing as its predecessors. For example, that 1992 team featured 11 All-Stars and 1 all-time college great in Christian Laettner, and that 2008 team, formed in the wake of the 2004 Olympic defeat, featured 10 NBA All-Stars. The 2023 FIBA team, though, which probably is still the most talented team in the field, only features 4: Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Brandon Ingram, and Jaren Jackson Jr. Of course, this isn't the only measure of how good an international team is, but it does represent a significant shift in how the US men's national team is constructed. With rest and recovery taking precedent when it comes to off-season activities, many established NBA stars have balked at the opportunity to represent their country when it comes to international competitions over the last few years, which has opened the door for USA basketball to build rosters that maybe aren't as naturally talented, but fit together more seamlessly. And I think that's the case with this 2023 FIBA World Cup squad. So let's learn more about the team and see just how good they can be. Before getting into the United States' chances, let's take a look at the 12-man roster going to the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia in late August. Of course, there's the 4 All-Stars already mentioned: Edwards, Halliburton, Ingram, and Jackson Jr. In addition to those guys, though, there's Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart from the New York Knicks, Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson from the Brooklyn Nets, Austin Reeves from the Lakers, Bobby Portis from Milwaukee, and 2 of the top 3 Rookie of the Year finishers from last season in Paolo Banchero and Walker Kessler. The team is led by head coach Steve Kerr, and he's assisted by Tyronn Lue, Eric Spoelstra, and Mark Few. On paper, I find this roster incredibly aesthetically pleasing when it comes to fit. I love their point guards in Halliburton and Brunson. Edwards and Ingram provide elite scoring pop. Bridges gives you two-way defense and shooting. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a menace of a rim protector and the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. And the glue guys like Portis, Reeves, and Johnson were all good selections as well. Instead of just a collection of talent that doesn't necessarily fit together, you can tell that USA Basketball really thought about how they wanted this roster to be constructed. And from the looks of it, the team doesn't really have any holes. In the run-up to the FIBA World Cup, the United States team played 5 exhibition games to get fully prepared for the competition. They eviscerated Puerto Rico and Slovenia by a combined 73 points in their first 2 games, and they also secured a 22-point win against Greece. But the 2 games where we learned the most about this team came against Spain and Germany. In both of these games, the US went with the same starting lineup of Brunson, Edwards, Bridges, Ingram, and Jackson, and in the Spain game, offense wasn't a concern. Team USA shot a blistering 67% from the field and put up 98 points, with Brunson leading the way on a perfect 9 of 9 shooting night for 22 points, and Halliburton adding 12 assists off the bench. Despite this offensive masterpiece, the US had to work hard to put Spain, who is the number 1 ranked international team in the world per FIBA, away, as it took a 4th quarter run to gain some separation after a close game throughout. The US ended up winning the game by 10, but the game was a little bit closer than the score reflected. The Germany game, though, got a little bit more dicey, as the team led by Dennis Schroeder and Franz Wagner gave the Americans a close call, managing to take a 16-point lead at one point and actually leading midway through the 4th quarter. Then the United States showed why they're the favorites heading into the World Cup. With a little under 7 minutes to go in the 4th, Moritz Wagner hit a 3 to put Germany up by 9. The game was officially in the danger zone for the United States, But then Team USA flipped the switch, as they held Germany scoreless for over 6 minutes, while going on a 16-0 run to put the game away with under a minute to go. And the star? Anthony Edwards. The 22-year-old phenom has led Team USA in scoring at 19 points a game through their 5 exhibition games, and he capped off his impressive run to the World Cup with a 34-point explosion against the Germans. During that 16-0 run, Edwards provided 10 of the US's points, and he did so while showcasing his dynamic scoring diversity, hitting 2 pull-up threes, a turnaround jumper, and getting to the free throw line. What's also impressive about this USA team, though, is that they played 7 different guys over the course of this run, and that is where I think the Americans can really punish opposing teams. Even though this team isn't as talented as some of the ones we've seen in the past, they are still the only team in the field with all of their players rostered by an NBA squad, and that level of quality should separate them from the rest of the competition. If it's not Edwards filling it up, it's Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton setting teammates up for open looks. If Brandon Ingram is struggling, there's guys like Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson to pick up the shooting slack, and if there's a lack of energy on the floor, then guys like Reeves, Portis, and Kessler can all come in and provide sparks. The team just has so many safety valves and backup plans that they can employ throughout a game that I really have a hard time seeing how they lose a game in this competition. But still, there are some very worthy opponents, starting with the United States' geographical neighbor, Canada. If you're an international youth hoops nerd, then you might remember the 2017 U19 FIBA World Cup that saw Canada actually beat the United States in the semifinals en route to winning the championship. And RJ Barrett, the MVP of that event and the guy who went off for 38 points against the US in that semifinal game, is now on Canada's senior roster after impressing with the New York Knicks. But Canada's talent doesn't stop there. The aforementioned All-NBA first-teamer Shai Gilgeous-Alexander headlines the squad, and NBA veterans like Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Kelly Olynyk, and Dwight Powell fill out the roster. Oh, and they also boast the reigning Wooden National Player of the Year and 7'4" Zach Edey, who's fresh off a season that saw him average 22 points and 13 rebounds for Purdue. Canada is probably the most formidable threat to United States victory, but there's also Spain and Germany, who obviously can hang with them based on last week's exhibitions, France, who features NBA vets like Rudy Gobert, Nick Batum, and Evan Fournier, Australia with guys like Josh Giddey, Josh Green, Joe Ingles, and Patty Mills, who, if you didn't know, has a weird tendency to turn into Michael Jordan whenever he puts on an Australia jersey, and Slovenia, who the United States did beat by 30 points, but I'm not going to fully rule out a Luka Doncic takeover. So yeah, the international basketball community is certainly improving, and that's been evident in the NBA and in international competitions across the globe. And while the United States roster might not look as intimidating on paper, I still think the smart money is on the United States to win the 2023 FIBA World Cup. But with the way basketball is growing globally, that might not always be the case in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and give me your thoughts below.